Tired of waiting at bus stops? Then let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited put you in the driver's seat with our Drive Your Dream Vehicle loan. With up to 5 years to repay and a low monthly interest rate of 0.5% on the reducing balance, it's a no-brainer. Call us at 457-2947 or visit tccusvg.com for more information or to schedule your loan appointment. SVGTCCU Limited, terms and conditions apply. Let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited help you change the way you live with our land loan special. We're making it easy to own your piece of paradise with a 5.75 interest rate, a repayment period of up to 12 years, and only 2.5% required in deposits. Not a member? No worries, you can join today and apply today. Visit tccusvg.com or call us at 457-2947 for more information. SVGTCCU Limited, terms and conditions apply. Tired of waiting at bus stops? Then let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited put you in the driver's seat with our Drive Your Dream Vehicle loan. With up to 5 years to repay and a low monthly interest rate of 0.5% on the reducing balance, it's a no-brainer. Call us at 457-2947 or visit tccusvg.com for more information or to schedule your loan appointment. SVGTCCU Limited, terms and conditions apply. Let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited help you change the way you live with our land loan special. We're making it easy to own your piece of paradise with a 5.75 interest rate, a repayment period of up to 12 years, and only 2.5% required in deposits. Not a member? No worries, you can join today and apply today. Visit tccusvg.com or call us at 457-2947 for more information. SVGTCCU Limited, terms and conditions apply. Tired of waiting at bus stops? Then let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited put you in the driver's seat with our Drive Your Dream Vehicle loan. With up to 5 years to repay and a low monthly interest rate of 0.5% on the reducing balance, it's a no-brainer. Call us at 457-2947 or visit tccusvg.com for more information or to schedule your loan appointment. SVGTCCU Limited, terms and conditions apply.
Providing financial services we can afford. with benefits, operating to provide low interest rate credit, providing financial services we can afford. Cooperatives build a better world. Cooperatives build a better world. Cooperatives build a better world. No need to waver, you'll be safer. Become a member today. We deliver a better future for you and me. Cooperative Credit Union Society, created to serve the society, developing strong bonds of solidarity, intended to promote savings with benefits, operating to provide low interest rate credit, providing financial services we can afford. Cooperatives build a better world. Cooperatives build a better world. Cooperatives build a better world. We have a responsibility to serve with honesty, to develop our vision, change the situation. This is our mission. So when you're in need, we're your helping hands. Let our cooperatives meet your demands. Created to serve the society, developing strong bonds of solidarity, intended to promote savings with benefits, operating to provide low interest rate credit, providing financial services we can afford. Cooperatives build a better world. Cooperatives build a better world. Cooperatives build a better world. For human need, not human greed. This is the answer. Working together. For human need, not human greed. We back in cooperation. This is the celebration. For human need, not human greed. This is the answer. Working together. For human need, not human greed.
cooperative represents unity. A cooperative represents the community. A cooperative benefits you and me, academically, financially. A cooperative gives back to society, employment opportunity, reduce poverty. A cooperative elevates the economy, a better country for you and me. For you and me. Man has been faced with social injustice, economic chaos way back before the days of Egyptian pharaohs. Search for ways to alleviate the stress via group consensus, pooling resources. Often they practice numerous methods, sharecropping, swap labor, bartering system. That was an era of trial and error till the winds of change brought the industrial era. Since then, technology has been forcefully advancing, therefore new methods were urgently needed. Urgently needed. A cooperative represents unity. A cooperative represents the community. A cooperative benefits you and me, academically, financially. A cooperative gives back to society, employment opportunity, reduce poverty. A cooperative elevates the economy, a better country. And as the rain fell, many felt the pressure. They ran seeking shelter under a Susu umbrella, which later evolved into a corporate entity. A vast history mentioned only in summary. From Rockdale Society to Friedrich in Germany, from UK to USA, the trend spread globally. Robert Owen, known as the father of cooperation, his philosophy was very inspirational to many of his followers in every nation, right down to Thomas Sanders in the Caribbean, who introduced the movement in 1957 to the home of the blessed, St. Vincent, my homeland. A cooperative represents unity. A cooperative represents the community. A cooperative benefits you and me, academically, financially. A cooperative gives back to society, employment opportunity, reduce poverty. A cooperative elevates the economy, a better country for you and me. For you and me. Credit union awareness. To be a member, you gotta buy shares, become a shareholder. Take hold, invest in your future. Knowledge is power, so don't be a loser. Foundation of trust, democratic structure with a range of products packaged to suit you. Medical savings, debt benefit plans, all types of loans. It's better than a bank. Sit with your dollar, teach it to make sense, cause you don't want to live your life with many regrets. So walk with a valiant stride till you never see you and put joy in your life. Yeah, a cooperative represents unity. A cooperative represents the community. A cooperative benefits you and me, academically, financially. A cooperative gives back to society, employment opportunity, reduce poverty. A cooperative elevates the economy, a better country for you and me. A cooperative represents unity. A cooperative represents the community. A cooperative benefits you and me, academically, financially. A cooperative gives back to society, employment opportunity, reduce poverty. A cooperative elevates the economy, a better country for you and me. For you and me.
Separate me from my credit union. No one could ever stop this loving cooperation. In this world of uncertainty and money speculation, my credit union is all I have for financial freedom. Some markets may rise, banking rates may fall.
Tired of waiting at bus stops? Then let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited put you in the driver's seat with our Drive Your Dream Vehicle loan. With up to 5 years to repay and a low monthly interest rate of 0.5% on the reducing balance, it's a no-brainer. Call us at 457-2947 or visit tccusvg.com for more information or to schedule your loan appointment. SVGTCCU Limited. Terms and conditions apply. Let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited help you change the way you live with our land loan special. We're making it easy to own your piece of paradise with a 5.75 interest rate, a repayment period of up to 12 years, and only 2.5% required in deposits. Not a member? No worries. You can join today and apply today. Visit tccusvg.com or call us at 457-2947 for more information. SVGTCCU Limited. Terms and conditions apply. Tired of waiting at bus stops? Then let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited put you in the driver's seat with our Drive Your Dream Vehicle loan. With up to 5 years to repay and a low monthly interest rate of 0.5% on the reducing balance, it's a no-brainer. Call us at 457-2947 or visit tccusvg.com for more information or to schedule your loan appointment. SVGTCCU Limited. Terms and conditions apply. Let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited help you change the way you live with our land loan special. We're making it easy to own your piece of paradise with a 5.75 interest rate, a repayment period of up to 12 years, and only 2.5% required in deposits. Not a member? No worries. You can join today and apply today. Visit tccusvg.com or call us at 457-2947 for more information. SVGTCCU Limited. Terms and conditions apply. Tired of waiting at bus stops? Then let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited put you in the driver's seat with our Drive Your Dream Vehicle loan. With up to 5 years to repay and a low monthly interest rate of 0.5% on the reducing balance, it's a no-brainer. Call us at 457-2947 or visit tccusvg.com for more information or to schedule your loan appointment. SVGTCCU Limited. Terms and conditions apply. Let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited help you change the way you live with our land loan special. We're making it easy to own your piece of paradise with a 5.75 interest rate, a repayment period of up to 12 years, and only 2.5% required in deposits. Not a member? No worries. You can join today and apply today. Visit tccusvg.com or call us at 457-2947 for more information. SVGTCCU Limited. Terms and conditions apply. Tired of waiting at bus stops? Then let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited put you in the driver's seat with our Drive Your Dream Vehicle loan. With up to 5 years to repay and a low monthly interest rate of 0.5% on the reducing balance, it's a no-brainer. Call us at 457-2947 or visit tccusvg.com for more information or to schedule your loan appointment. SVGTCCU Limited. Terms and conditions apply. Let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited help you change the way you live with our land loan special. We're making it easy to own your piece of paradise with a 5.75 interest rate, a repayment period of up to 12 years, and only 2.5% required in deposits. Not a member? No worries. You can join today and apply today. Visit tccusvg.com or call us at 457-2947 for more information. SVGTCCU Limited terms and conditions apply.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, both present here at the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union headquarters in Kingstown, and those joining us live via our Facebook and YouTube pages. I am Melissa York-Nichols, the Marketing Manager of the St. Vincent's and the Grenadines Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited, and I am honored to invite you to this afternoon's 4th Annual Health Symposium. To begin this afternoon's symposium, I ask you to stand and join me as we recite the Credit Union Prayer. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Bless, O Lord, our deliberations, and grant that whatever we may say and do will have thy blessings and guidance through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. We ask you to remain standing for the national anthem. Thank you. Please be seated. Today, the St. Vincent's and the Grenadines Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited is pleased to host its 4th Annual Health Symposium under the theme, A Healthy You, Active in the Fight Against Non-Communicable Diseases. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Brother Cecil Charles, Vice President of the Board of Directors, Sister Jasmine Huggins, CEO of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Cooperative Credit Union, other managers, members of staff, and other members of the Board of Directors, thank you for being with us today. I'll also at this time acknowledge the presence of our panelists, Dr. Wayne Murray, Mr. Keon Constance, and Miss Joyce Bergin, along with our moderator, Brother Johnny P. Straker. And it would be remiss of me to not acknowledge the chairperson of our Education and Marketing Committee, Sister Celine Barber. We appreciate your presence here with us today, and we look forward to a great discussion on how we can all be active in the fight against non-communicable diseases. We have a microphone for persons here with us in the building. If you have questions, please go to the mic and we would acknowledge you. For those persons online, please enter your questions or comments in the chat, and we would then facilitate those to the moderator, who will have our panelists address your question. At this time, I would invite Brother Cecil Charles, Vice President of the SVGTCCU Board of Directors, to give you greetings and welcome remarks from the Board of Directors.
Thank you, Sister Melissa. CEO, Mrs. Jasmine Huggins Daly, members of staff, our panelists, Dr. Wayne Murray, Keon Constance, and our lone female. It's always say females first, but we always feel welcome to have the privilege of having Joyce Bergin with us as we today meet for our 4th annual health symposium. Over the years, the Teachers Cooperative Credit Union value the health of our members. And also permit me to say on behalf of the Board of Directors to welcome those of you who are here and for those online to this, our symposium. It is often said, your health is your wealth. And we believe as a credit union that the healthier our membership, the more productive the credit union will be. Thus, we have sought to address several health concerns over the years, such as breast cancer and endometriosis, prostate cancer, and mental health. And recently, we celebrated World Mental Health Day. And this year, our focus is on raising the awareness of non-communicable diseases. We all agree that this is now a health concern for us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and by extension, the world. And so we celebrate under the theme, a healthy you, active in the fight against non-communicable diseases. And I'm sure that our panelists, who are well-versed, well-equipped, would lead us through how best we as a people can address these health concerns relating to non-communicable diseases. So once again, on behalf of the Board of Directors, the staff, all members of the All Committee, let me welcome you once again to this, our 4th Health Symposium, and trust that we are going to have a fruitful discussion And when we shall leave here, we will be better equipped to handle the fight against non-communicable diseases. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Charles, for those welcome remarks. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the team from Massa Assist. They are here with us this evening, and you will have an opportunity to hear from them later on in today's program. At this time, I would like to introduce our panelists for this evening's discussion on the fight against non-communicable diseases. Dr. Wayne Murray. Dr. Wayne Murray, medical doctor, is a general practitioner who has been in private practice for over 19 years. A graduate of the St. George's School of Medicine, Dr. Murray is a self-described simple man who enjoys spending time with his family and being in his garden. Those of us from the Murray's Village community know him as a doctor of the people, a community man and a family man. In short, Dr. Murray is someone you can count on for quality care. Please welcome Dr. Wayne Murray. Miss Joyce Bergin is a graduate of the St. Vincent Girls High School class of 1978. She completed an associate's degree in hotel and institutional management at the Hospitality Institute of the Barbados Community College and a Bachelor of Science degree in nutrition and dietetics at the Faculty of Agriculture and Natural Sciences of the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus, Trinidad and Tobago. Ms. Bergin also did several training courses in health promotion, epidemiology, and health research, among others. Joyce completed her thesis on the nutritional status of persons living with HIV and AIDS in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and was published in the West Indian Medical Journal 2008. Joyce worked in the hotel sector from 1987 to 1990, then joined the nutrition unit in October 1991 and worked in several positions until her retirement in 2017 as senior nutritionist. Ms. Bergin is now a nutrition lecturer at the Division of Nursing Education of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College, continues to do nutrition counseling, and is a nutrition education consultant working for regional and international organizations, the FAO, World Bank, CARICOM, and UNICEF. Ms. Bergin is a single mother of two sons, Andrew and Alex Bergin, and the guardian of two nieces, Maurice and Marielle Bergin. Joyce enjoys cooking, swimming, dancing, walking, gardening, and family gatherings. Joyce also served as a member of the National Protocol Committee and served as a liaison officer at several national events. Ms. Bergin has served as an executive member of the Kingstown Government School, St. Martin's Secondary, and the St. Vincent Grammar School's Parent Teachers Association. Ms. Bergin continues to provide nutrition education for community groups, church groups, PTAs, and other institutions on request. This is just a glimpse of Ms. Bergin, and hopefully at the end of the presentation you can make your own assessment. Our next panelist is Mr. Keon Constance. Keon Constance is a fitness instructor and owner of Island-Wide Fitness. His passion for fitness started in the British Army as a physical fitness instructor for basic training. During an annual medical checkup, he discovered he had type 1 diabetes, and unfortunately he had to end his 6 years of service in the British Army. Moving back to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Keon offered personal training services to Vincentians. With his burning passion for the Army and fitness, he embarked on another journey by creating opportunities for young Vincentians by training and preparing them to join the British Army and Navy. Keon continues to make a great impact in our community via his boot camp training at Island-Wide Fitness, as several young Vincentians benefited and are now serving in both the British Army and Navy. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our panelists for tonight's discussion. To lead our discussion this evening, we have with us a moderator, Mr. Johnny P. Straker. Born on the last day of the year, December 31st, he has always been heckled by his friends as nearly ain't born. And he always responds with, the best is always left for last. Johnny P. Straker is a senior announcer at the state-owned radio station NBC Radio, having been employed there since 2008. 2 times junior Calypso monarch when he attended the Kingston Anglican School in his younger years, a graduate of the St. Vincent Grammar School. He has dabbled in singing, calypso, playing music, and emceeing calypso shows, weddings, and other events. He enjoys the morning swim in the sea, listening to music, playing his guitar, and reading mystery novels. A qualified bartender, peer counselor, and trained in writing and producing advertisements for radio and television. Some persons who know him think he has a sense of humor, but he says he doesn't think so. He is married and lives with his wife, Cindy and Belair, in the West St. George constituency. And he may be overlooked his newest accolade of being a member of the Education and Marketing Committee here at the Teachers Cooperative Credit Union. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our moderator, Mr. Johnny P. Straker, and our panelists. Let the discussions begin.
Thank you very much, Melissa, and I want to say good evening at this time to persons online, on Facebook page, on YouTube, and those who are present here. We usually do the discussion, the panelists will present, and then we will ask questions. We have a mic on the right, your left, if you're viewing, and we will facilitate those questions online. You will indicate in a chat, and Melissa, Sister Melissa will facilitate the questions and forward them to the panelists. We will give the panelists some time to just go through a bit of what they had prepared, and then I have some questions, and we'll await questions from the persons on face-to-face here and those viewing online. So at this time, with his presentation, we will call on Dr. Wayne Murray and to do a short presentation, and then we'll get into the question part of it. Oh, we'll go straight into the questions and we'll get the information. I guess this is the opportunity for persons to ask the question that they really wanted answered. So at this time, I'll ask the first question. I am Johnny P. Straker and I'm a hypertension. Yes, good. What exactly is diabetes? This one is to Dr. Dane Murray. And how does it affect the body? And at the same time, what is hypertension and how does it affect the body?
Can you hear me now? Great.
Yeah.
First, I must express the pleasure in being here to present relative to the non-communicable diseases. And yes, this is a very important topic because clearly, as one will understand, to the background of all of this, prior to the 1900s, persons will most likely die or get very ill from infectious diseases. And many persons actually did not live for very long. Most people like Mozart and many of the very noted persons from history never really lived beyond age 40. Mm-hmm. Clearly, if you're born now in this century, everyone expects you to go off to school, go to university, have a family, and at least clear age 50. Clearly because we have been able to master by far communicable diseases or infectious diseases, which means now things which persons never had to worry about before now becomes a problem. As you live older, then of course your body becomes, it becomes now, what should I say, invaded by the lifestyle diseases, or even some are actually inherited. Diabetes and hypertension clearly are two diseases which are brothers and sisters, or husband and wife, depends on how you look at it. They tend to follow each other. And also, they are two of the non-communicable diseases which affects our population significantly. Not just black populations, as people tend to want to say. On the contrary, all populations, because this is a lifestyle disease, actually, by far. Diabetes. Diabetes is not just a matter of the blood sugar being high, as people tend to mention. Diabetes actually is a syndrome. It's a disease whereas when blood sugar is not controlled within the accepted limits of the body, the high blood sugar becomes a poison to the body. It destroys the blood vessels. The blood vessels are indeed the pathway which blood can take all instruments to the body for repair or to get rid of disease processes to ensure it is a pathway. And so long as the blood vessels are destroyed, the body cannot function. Because of this, we see many things are happening. First, of course, we have issues of repair. The body can hardly repair itself because, once again, to repair, you need to bring instruments of repair to areas. And also, you need to now move away things, which like waste products, etc. So that's affected. Also, you find organs like the kidneys. The kidney is an amazing organ, and it cleans the blood, and also it produces hormones which are necessary for the functioning of the body. But of course, the kidney in itself imagine it is a mass of blood vessels all tangled together, and in a very ingenious way, it can clean the blood. But therefore, with diabetes, these blood vessels are affected. They're unable to function, so which means the kidney does not function. For males, diabetes can mean the inability to sustain an erection because clearly there are no bones in the penis, and rather blood is trapped in the penis, which will give an erection. And if the blood vessels are destroyed, you cannot have an erection. An individual whom gets injuries, if you walk on a nail, you got cut, you get scratched, things you take for granted cannot actually, no longer can these systems work. So diabetes, do not be fooled to believe it's just a matter of a little bit too much sugar, but rather it's an inability of the body to control that blood sugar. And of course, that's where insulin comes in. Insulin, once again, is an ingenious product which is produced by the pancreas, and it allows blood, the sugar in the blood to be transferred into the cells where it can be stored or where it can be used. If there's no insulin being produced, then clearly you cannot control your blood sugar. Also, most persons have what's called type 2 diabetes. They've always had a normal functioning pancreas that is producing insulin, and they are producing insulin still, but the insulin produced either is in a small quantity or that it's not functioning properly. Mm-hmm. Either way, the benchmark here is that sugar cannot be controlled. It is very high in your bloodstream, but it's not getting into the cells. Hypertension is known to be the silent killer, and that's for an obvious reason. Unlike diabetes, which you have symptoms, for hypertension, you may have none. The person who's running around town thinking he's in the best of health can have the highest of blood pressure, not knowing that at all, which makes it very dangerous. On average, one's blood pressure should not sustain continually above 140/90. Clearly, your blood pressure is not a constant number. The readings as recorded by a blood pressure machine, to make it easier, is that one will want the range to between 140/90 as your highest reading and 90/60 as your lowest reading. Clearly, depending on the situation which you are in, your blood pressure can go up and down. And that is a function of a normal cardiovascular system. But if your blood pressure continues to be significantly high, above 140/90, even when you are in the resting state, therefore that is hypertension. And hypertension can affect you for a long period of time without knowing. You can only know by testing. It's not how you feel. It's not if you have a headache or if you have a stiff neck, as many people think. The fact is that the persons who seem to have the highest blood pressure are feeling great. They're outgoing. That's the person who have 2 jobs. They have a garden which they go to. They're always there to help. You can wake them up 2 o'clock in the morning and they're there. And there's a reason for that. Because high blood pressure drives fresh blood to the brain continually. And there's a reason why Red Bull and these drinks tend to sell. Because they keep fresh blood being rushed to the brain so that you would not sleep. Hypertension does exactly that. If the blood pressure is sustainedly high for a long period, many things can happen. That high blood pressure, once again, is affecting the blood vessels in your body. It's affecting your kidneys. It can destroy your kidney. Because your heart is a muscle. And as you know, if you lift a weight continually over and over, your muscles get big. If your heart is pumping against the pressure over a long period of time, your heart gets very large also. A big heart is not a good heart. A big heart is a sick heart. And persons can develop heart failure later on when the heart is unable to work efficiently. And of course, if the pressure is so high to the point that there is a weak spot in a blood vessel in your brain, that can rupture and you can have a stroke. This is just a quick, easy synopsis relative to what hypertension and diabetes is about. Most persons have some degree of idea of what it is. The problem, though, is that these are conditions which you will not be aware of unless if you get assessment by your nurse, your doctor, or at least in this day and age, anyone can have a blood pressure machine or a blood sugar machine which they can do the first assessment, and after they can be assessed after by their medical practitioner.
Thank you very much, Doctor. You've answered 4 of my questions. I'll bring in Keon Constance here now. Of course, you were diagnosed a diabetic. What role does exercise play in combating the disease?
Now, when it comes to diabetes, you do need to control 3 important things. Of course, you need to control your medication. Mm-hmm. You need to control your diet. And, of course, you need to control your exercise. Once you can control all these 3 things, you're able to live a full, complete life, a normal life. Now, of course, exercise has changed my life when I got diabetes. I'll just give you guys a story, how I got it and what I did to help develop myself. Now, I was in the Army back in 2012. I'm a fairly fit person. I was always active. I was training persons in basic training. So I was an active person. I had a medical check. We usually do a checkup every 6 months. Unfortunately, I did a medical check at one point, and my blood sugar was high at that time. I think it was roughly about 350. Yeah, so 350 is extremely high. Right? That was my first time. I knew nothing about diabetes. The only thing I knew about it is old people got it. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I knew about it at that time. So I was ignorant to it. So they asked me to go and take a fasting blood sugar test. And when I took that fasting blood sugar test the next morning, it came down to about 300, but that was extremely high still. So in England, they decided, okay then, I was over 23 or 24 at that time. They decided to class me as a type 2 diabetic. So they decided to say, okay, get on metformin. Right? I was in metformin for a few weeks, but unfortunately my blood sugar wasn't going down, so they decided to then give me insulin. Now at that time, I had to be taking insulin after every meal, so that was 3 times a day, and plus that was called a short-acting insulin. And I took it at nighttime, which is my long-acting insulin, sustained my body for about 24 hours. So 4 times a day. So you can imagine just injecting itself 4 times a day? Yeah, that is That is bad. Yes, but of course, my diet had to change so much because the more I ate, or the higher carb consumption I ate, or the more food I ate, the more insulin in that time I had to take. Now, this definitely could not have worked for me. The running and the walking, the exercising did nothing for me because I kept eating the same way. Yeah, running, exercising wouldn't have done anything to me. And I noticed the blood sugar was still going high all the time because I did not find that balance. I didn't know how much insulin I should be able to take, or how much I should exercise, or what style of food I should eat. Right. So hence the reason my sugar kept spiking. So I needed a complete change around. I changed everything up. My eating habits, from eating a bowl of cereals with bread and it was bowl of cereals, eggs, omelets, bread, waffles morning time. We had a big breakfast in the army. And to having a lunch with rice and provisions and potato. England loves potato and beans. Yes, and we had dessert after lunch. Then dinner, we had even a bigger dinner as well. So you can imagine how much these foods we ate. It was horrible. So we changed up completely. For my breakfast, I decided, okay, then we'll just have the omelets and some vegetables and tomatoes on the side. That was the breakfast. That changed. That was good. Then lunch, we changed up lunch, went to about my fish with my salad, and I had a small potato. So that was my lunch. Now, if you can look at a plate size, my plate was divided like this. It was about 45% of my plate was filled up with greens. About 30% was filled up with protein. And the less remainder was filled up with either fat or carbohydrates. So the diet changed around rather than having carbohydrates being a main source, which a lot of us Vincentians do have: rice, potato, macaroni, and dashings, all these things. All those things had reduced to about 10% on the plate and increase in the vegetables and the protein. Now, all that changed up. My exercising, now I just went crazy with my exercising now. I started running even more. I started hitting the gym even more than I did before. So my exercise boost, it went twice or three times the amount I did before. Now, by balancing those two things, I noticed, okay, my blood sugar started decreasing. So I went to my doctor, and they decided to take down the amount of insulin I took a day. Now, what happened after about 2 or 3 years, I came back to St. Vincent, and of course, I had to really keep on that eating regimen. But taking insulin 4 times per day, it was still difficult for me. So what did I need to do? I really had to check my eating even more. I really had to pay close attention. There wasn't any room for sodas. There wasn't any room for heavy alcohol. If I drank alcohol, it might be once or twice a week maximum. There wasn't any room for junk food at all. I haven't done junk food in 12, 13 years now. All those meals had to decrease, and we're living in St. Vincent where we have fresh vegetables. Dr. Murray said he's in his garden all the time. I was
tired of it.
He said that. Well, when you said that. The garden, we can do vegetable gardens here, which is a lifesaver. We started doing that. My wife and I started planting, and we started growing, which made it cheaper and even better for us. All right? Now, what I can tell you, by telling you all of this, what I can tell you from taking insulin from 4 times a day, the units of insulin I took, well, those persons who know about insulin, I would move from taking about 25 to 30 units after every meal or before every meal to only taking between 10 to 15 units, right? Now, I've moved from injecting myself 4 times per day to moving to 2 times per day now. So that is a major reduce because I've changed up my exercise. I've changed up my eating, and now I can balance all three together.
Thank you so much,
Can I bust out?
Constance. Now, the panelists, they are going through my questions. You've answered two of my questions. So let's bring in the nutritionist in our midst, the lone lady. And Mr. Constance mentioned changing eating habits and all that. Ms. Bergen, what role does our diet play in fighting these non-communicable diseases?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And as Mr. Constance just said, eating plays a very important role in managing, because what it is, it's a metabolic condition. And because it's a metabolic condition, it has to do with when and how and the quantity of food that you take in, how your body is going to break down that food to use it as fuel, what time frame. And hence the reason why he insists and will tell you that he moved and he used a lot more vegetables. Our food-based dietary guidelines have now been asking us as Vincentians to use fruits and vegetables at every single meal now. And we know we have a 3-meal system. But when you have diabetes, you don't eat 3 meals. You eat sometimes 5-6 times a day. But you have to eat in much smaller portions. And that's why his plates would be smaller. Because when you do that, what you're doing, you're managing the rate at which your body utilizes the food that you put in. Because that is extremely important. Because as he is taking his insulin would be in his system. And once he eats, that would trigger the use of that insulin. And so he has to eat in small quantities, and he cannot have too many big gaps in his eating. Because what would happen, his blood sugar could fall too low. And you don't want that. When you start having the highs and lows because of how you eat, you have a problem where you start having what Dr. Murray talked about with the cell damage. You have nerve damage, then it affects the cells. The cells are in our organs, those organs get sick, and then those organs start malfunctioning, basically. And a lot of times what happens, you find particular organs are more at risk than others. Hence the reason why you find some diabetics end up losing a toe, losing a finger, losing an ankle, losing parts of the body. It's because of that nerve damage. Because when the nerves are damaged, that organ dies over time. And it cannot be repaired. It cannot be repaired. And so it is important that you eat and eat correctly. And there's no one fit for anyone. Just like Mr. Constance was telling us. He had to find his own niche. And so every single individual who is diagnosed as a diabetic, they really should be getting nutrition counseling one-on-one and getting their meal plan made up to fit their lifestyle. And that is extremely important. A lot of people don't do that. They just figure, people want to deprive them of eating good food. Mm-hmm. But good food is really what is best for you with your specific condition. And so with diabetes, eating is very important. Carbohydrate management, which is the foods that are high in starch, are one of the major problems, because we came up through a system where we like a lot of carbs. We like a lot of bread. We like a lot of breadfruit. We like our ground provisions. Yes, we can still have them. But as a diabetic, you must have them in small portions, because your body cannot utilize them like a regular person whose pancreas are working efficiently. Okay? And so that is the reason why dietary management is important. And you must, and I'm stressing here, you must get a dietitian to counsel you so that you can understand. And it's not about just telling the person, cut out. That's one of the major problems we hear. People hear, cut out. A lot of time it's managing what you eat. And so you have to get into that person's lifestyle to see, this is how they eat. Because you can't come and tell the person, cut out bread, when this is a person who only eating cereal or only eating provision. Right. So you don't tell people cut out. You have to get with that person and go through the regime with them, whether you do 1, 2, 3 counseling sessions, and you explain to them. So you get their eating habits and you tailor it to fit their lifestyle so that they don't figure they have to throw everything out the window and start afresh. All right? Also, when it comes to hypertension, we know one of the things about hypertension is usually foods that are high in sodium. And here is where we always tell people, once you have hypertension, start reading your labels. Read your labels. Look at that. sodium. That is the one that you're going to be looking at to see how high up it comes. The higher up it is on the label, the higher the content of sodium. Stay away from that as a person with hypertension. Okay? For hypertensives, you can continue to eat the same types of foods. Again, you're going to be managing it on your portion sizes, etc. One of the things we also tell people, when you get a diagnosis, everybody have their own body size, their own amount of body fat, their own body muscle, etc. And so your diet is usually tailored to fit that. And here is where also you would find persons like Mr. Constance would be the one who would help people with an exercise program, one that they can manage. Okay? And so you manage the eating along with the diet and fix the diet along with exercise. And also you get your information as needed from a physician on a constant basis. You don't just stay away from a doctor and listen to, in St. Vincent, we have a lot of cultural myths that people go around with. Or drink this bush. You don't have to take that thing. The doctors want to keep you, the pharmaceutical companies want to keep you trapped. You hear all these kinds of things when people have to take medication. But a lot of times, there is so much research that is being done now that a lot of times people just need to get the correct information, and hence the reason you have to listen to your physician and follow the guidelines that they give you. Again, here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we would like Vincentians to follow the 9 food-based dietary guidelines that have been recently, they've been upgraded so that Vincentians can continue to eat our culturally appropriate food, but to eat them in the quantities and the proportions that are necessary to maintain a healthy lifestyle.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bergen. And my mother is diabetic and hypertensive, and I've been wondering why every half an hour I have to give her something. Every half an hour she wants something to eat. And I realize now that's because of the sugar content and the sugar level that she always needs something to eat. She takes 30 ml in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. But we're helping with exercise, and that's what we should be doing, helping with exercise and eating right. We want to welcome those persons who joined a bit late online. So if you have any questions, keep them nearby, so we'll facilitate you and get your questions in at a later date. At this time, we bring back in the doctor in the house, Dr. Murray, and we'll need some signs and symptoms, if any, of diabetes and hypertension. Dr. Murray.
Well, first, let's start with the easy one first, is that do not wait on any signs for hypertension. That's like deciding to put on your indicator when you already started to turn. Indicators are to indicate what you're about to do, not to indicate what you're doing. And that's the same issue with hypertension. You have to have your blood pressure measured. That is the only standard relative to knowing what your blood pressure is. So when people mention about neck pains and headache and I feel this and that, there's absolutely no rule relative to hypertension in terms of looking for signs. If someone tells you that they're looking for signs of hypertension, then that is not scientific, neither does it make any true sense. You have to measure your blood pressure. That involves either having your own machine or, you're always at your church, at your school, you see people on the sidewalks who do have your blood pressure checked. I do not believe in, this concept about, I get a neck pain here and I get a throbbing over there. That is nothing to look forward for. It has to be measured. So that's the easiest one. Absolutely straightforward. And you don't have to be an expert to check the blood pressure. And when you get a reading, which is not necessarily correct, that's when you then seek professional help. Professional help can cost you nothing. It can mean going to your public clinic. It can be having your blood pressure checked by a certified nurse. And every church has one. Every other home has one of those. So it will cost you nothing to do that. Of course, and then clearly one can have this done professionally. As a physician, every patient who enters my office, they have to have their blood pressure checked. It's mind-boggling to me to realize that some physicians will see the patient and not check their blood pressure. It's just one of those vitals you need to do. And therefore, whenever you go to your physician, they need to check your blood pressure. No matter what this doctor is doing, gynecologist, may it be an ophthalmologist, they need to check your blood pressure. These are ways which we can do screening for persons. And if you for some reason have no reason to see the doctor, which is another question in itself, one needs to make it their duty to, at least as an adult, to see their physician at least twice a year, bearing in mind if they went for something else. You may go to your physician because you have a chest infection or something else. That is a visit, so that's a check. But if you did not have any real reason to see a doctor by the middle of the year, you should go for an assessment. Diabetes, right away, there's a few things we must always think of. One thing we must think about is history, and that is family history. If there is a family member, mother, father, brothers and sisters, but especially your mother does not only give you your good looks, but she seems to give you everything else. There's a strong link between if the mother has diabetes and the children will have. Of course, because of genetics and because, of course, of behavioral lifestyle. You all live in the same house, most likely, so you eat the same food. And therefore, if there's a family history of diabetes, therefore, you must have suspicion, and therefore, you must be checking. But there are other actual signs which we come up on. The obvious ones you must think of: frequent urination. And I always use the nighttime as a guide, because during the day, persons seem to not take note of these things. But they will remember at night having to wake up to pass urine, because interruption of sleep is something which you don't forget. So if you have to wake at night to pass urine once, if at least once or twice, diabetes is something you must consider. Of course, you can be a man who has a large prostate, and that's another story, but nonetheless, one should check to see if diabetes is a factor. You can have a urinary tract infection as a lady, and you can have frequent urination. But if you have frequent urination, that is one sign that one must consider. Another one must look at is thirst. And a thirst for sweet things. You know, you're thirsty, but you want a malt. You don't want water. Because the brain is telling you it is not getting sugar. The brain can only use sugar, simple sugar, as a source of energy. Even though the sugar is in the bloodstreams, is not in the cells. So you get thirsty. You get dry lips. Ladies can get frequent urinary tract infection. Later on, you can see stuff like poor healing, but this is further on. But there's one which I always latch onto for males, is the male who is not circumcised, but who comes to the doctor because the foreskin has an infection. And the guy comes and he's like, I went to the pharmacist and he gave me something. And it worked for 5 days, but it come back, doc. And right away, I know it's diabetes. And I had a question. And I said, anybody in the family has diabetes? Yes, my mommy. Do you wake up at night to pass urine? Yes, because I drink a lot, so I pee a lot. Okay, that's fine. I already know. Now, the foreskin in a male, even before a lot of the other signs are present, they get the cracks on the foreskin. And nothing brings a man faster to the doctor than when his sex is affected. Because that needs to be fixed. And that's why he's here to see the doctor. And he says, yeah, the foreskin is cracked and it's painful and I can't do anything. And right away, I know that is one sign I have noted, and I have diagnosed many males as being diabetic because they presented with the cracks on the foreskin. Of course, you can have just a generalized skin is dry. These are signs which you can see. And if you let anything go to its fulfillment, everyone, yes, you're going to have weight loss. This is something, but that will be something that's going to present way later than these other subtle signs. Mm-hmm. I mean, we do see persons who present with significant weight loss who are in a condition called diabetic ketoacidosis. But in this day and age, that should not be. When someone shows up because they're losing so much weight and stuff like that, clearly all the other signs have been missed. And that should not be. So the signs that we want to catch it at
is the one which is early, but even much so, you should not wait on signs. Assessment for diabetes and hypertension must be as paying your license. It's something you need to do every year and every opportunity which you actually get to do it. Signs, by the time you see signs, things can be really far gone. And therefore, it should not be what we are using in a modern day and age. Before, they used to test the urine to see if you're diabetic. And because of blood testing, we know by the time sugar gets into the urine, the blood sugar is so significantly high already. They are diabetics. When you test the urine, there's no sugar in it. So it just shows that assessment by medical personnel or even home kits are good enough to make you to get onto this faster. Because diabetes is a reversible illness. Type 2 diabetes is reversible. If a person is diagnosed early enough and the changes of diet, exercise, and medication is seen to, many persons do not require absolutely no medication at all. It's a reversible illness, but you got to catch it early.
All right. So we can lower or we can control. You just mentioned reversible. Is there a cure for diabetes, hypertension?
There is a cure for diabetes. And the cure for diabetes is controlling one's diet. You have to, everything, if you control your diet, because there are families which 80% of the persons in it have the diabetes, and the other 20% don't. And you just have to look at the diet and their lifestyle. Now, we're in a modern age now, there are pumps and stuff that can put in you to release the insulin on its own and stuff like that. And, people love to get excited about modern medicine and cure. But believe me, prevention, early diagnosis, and management is more in the grasp of the ordinary man. There are cures for a lot of things. What if you can't afford it and you can't get it? It means nothing to you. Prevention, we all can do that. Early diagnosis, we all can do that. Another thing, early management is cheap. When I worked at a public clinic many years ago, persons would come and line up for like hours, and they'll go up to the pharmacy to get their medications, and sometimes they'll complain because they didn't get all what they wanted. And they're like, I stayed there all day, and I said, hey, do you know you can buy Glybride downtown for 10 cents for one? They're like, it's true. I said, yeah, you can get it in the private pharmacy. So they're like, I stayed there all day, and I could have bought, exactly, meaning in that. The simplest of medications, they are cheap. So they are not outside the reach of the person who, to be quite truthful, the basic medications, they are literally being given away, literally, when you look at what they cost, what the cost is. But people need to use them, but they also need to incorporate the nutritionists, the exercise and the physio, and the physician, and that's where you get the best results.
Thank you very much. Constance, in a prior question, in the answer you mentioned eating habits and exercise. What are some of the other things you do to make sure that you manage the disease?
Testing? Yes. Yes, testing is quite important. I monitor my sugar every single day. Sometimes I manage it, test it 3 times a day. As soon as I wake up every morning, I'm checking my sugar. Is it high? Is it low? Depends on if it's high, I know what type of breakfast I should have. If it's low, I know what type of breakfast I should have. Lunchtime, I'm going to test it again. I should know what type of lunch or how much of that lunch I can have. Dinner, I'm also going to test again. Before I go to bed, I'm also going to test again. So testing your sugar, it is quite important. Now, I'm not going to lie, it can be expensive. That part, it is expensive, but something has to give, and something do have to give. You need to find yourself how you can find it cheaper for you. So For me, I went online, I purchased a test strips that will last me about 6 to 7 months. And that has worked for me, rather than testing once a day, because when you do test morning or you do test night, what's happening during the 12 hours or the 24 hours? Your sugar will be spiking at some time. It will be dropping at some times, but you don't know. You don't know what food is actually spiking it or what food is actually decreasing it. You don't know what exercise is actually spiking it or what exercise is actually decreasing it. So testing your sugar quite often, it is quite important. Yes, it's expensive, but it is important. And I find that I was able to manage it much better because I test quite often.
So constant monitoring, no pun intended.
Exactly.
All right, we have 2 questions from members of the audience and online. We'll turn over to Sister Melissa.
We have a question from Mavis Saunders. She says, very good discussion so far. Dr. Murray mentioned that energy drinks could keep you feeling upbeat. Could he explain if these drinks are bad for your health?
I surely and I hope that the producer of the energy drink did not sponsor this program because they will not be very pleased with my statement. Energy drinks, as they're called, they are energy drink for true in one way, and they are not energy drink in another way. For instance, if you were to turn over the side of these bottles and read, 1 can of Red Bull or Village Ram, which is the local stuff, is like 1 can or 1 bottle of that is like drinking 10 cups of black. The quantity of caffeine in 1 drink is like drinking 10 big cups of black coffee. So, and what caffeine does, it races your heart. If the heart is pumping rapidly, it's pumping fresh, oxygenated blood with sugar into the brain, so therefore you will not sleep. Now, so what they also put in it is sugar. So they put in caffeine, they put in sugar, and everything else there is just to ensure that the sugar and the caffeine blends together. In a sense, energy drinks are bad for you. And some countries have tried to find ways of trying to ban them, trying to cut the amount of caffeine that is put in them, but because they fall under food and not drug, they're able to get around that. Energy drinks are bad for you. And if a person is a hypertensive or diabetic, they should not even be having those in the car sitting close to them. They're the worst thing for a person who's hypertensive diabetic, and they are responsible for many persons who get stroke. People take them during carnival time. Guys will drink 2 or 3 because they want to be doing 2 and 3 more than they normally will. And some people have died from hemorrhagic strokes from using these drinks. So they're bad for you. I mean, I won't say that I may not have used one. I drink alcohol too. I know alcohol is bad for you. But my point is that energy drinks are not part of the nutritional guideline as stated by Sister Bergen, so they are not good for you. I'm certain that they are not in that pyramid. They're not.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Question number 2.
We have a question from Doris Frederick. She says, I'm wondering about the use of plant-based products like the avocado seed, a tea made from this, as well as garlic and turmeric in the form of teas. Yes, Ms. Bergen might be able to shed some light for us.
Okay, there's a lot of research going on right now, and there are different parts of different plants, herbs, etc., that are out there on the market. Ginger and turmeric are being touted a lot, and people are using it. But you have to be mindful especially as a diabetic or a hypertensive, because if you're not sure what the interaction of these medications, what they're going to do with the medication that you're using, sometimes I prefer to tell people, stay away from it unless you're going to find a herbalist who is going to explain to you, along with your pharmacist, what the interaction is going to be between your medication and these herbs that people are selling out there. Specifically, if you are growing your own turmeric and you have your own ginger, nothing is wrong with having maybe a cup of ginger tea now and again or a cup of turmeric. But to tell you the quantities, I do not know. So I do not sell it to people. It's not part of my nutrition training to sell those to people. They are there, and basically a lot of them are used as a cultural base, because we culturally know we drink ginger beer, we put ginger in our marby, we use ginger as a spice, basically in a lot of things, and that's okay. But when it comes to using it on its own as a person with a non-communicable disease, you need to work with your doctor and your pharmacist before you tread into that zone, because what you're going to do, you're going to be having interactions in your system, and if nobody is checking you, you wouldn't know what you are doing to which organ in your body. Thank you.
All right. We have another question from someone online. Sister Melissa.
LaBelle Marcel says, please explain the importance of sleep, and especially nighttime sleep and general rest in the control of diabetes, hypertension, and other diseases.
I think that one will be for Dr. Murray.
Okay. Rest. The thing is that, let's just assume a person is not hypertensive and not diabetic. Rest is a very important part of a living system of a human being, because the concept of repair of the body and allowing for resting for certain structures. You know, the heart beats forever for all of your life. The lung is expanding and it's breathing, but you could not run or jump all day, and you could not speak all day, because muscles and different parts of the body need times for repair, and they need time for growth and development. Now, in a normal, healthy person, if a person were to, you know, I know there's some extreme guys like old George, you know, walk for 9 days and stuff like that. You know, that's not a normal expectation. And if any run-of-the-mill person try that, they will die or they'll injure themselves significantly. So for a normal functioning body, there is a need for rest and repair. Now, consider yourself being hypertensive and diabetic, meaning that you have 2 strikes against you. It means, therefore, your body is already under significant stress from 2 disease processes which is weakening the body. If you are now not giving your body enough time to rest and repair, you are doing your body worse. And this is not medicine involved here. No one had to teach me that at medical school. This is good old common sense. And that's what a lot of medicine is about. It's about using and reasoning and deduction. Persons with disease processes require times for resting so that the body can repair itself. And in many circumstances, people who are not sleeping, like a diabetic who is not sleeping, will eat. And therefore, once again, they tend to be in a situation where they are giving the body more nutrients. People who wake up to look at television at night, or persons who work extreme hours, they will eat or drink. And you know what they'll also drink too? The energy drinks to keep them up. And that can cause damage to the body. So clearly, persons with disease processes, even though we encourage exercise because they should keep nice and fit, but they need to give their body good, reasonable amount of time so it can repair and then it can be able to function at an optimum level.
All right, once again, we want to welcome those persons who joined us a little later after we but I've started here, and welcome, and we still have some time for a few more questions. We have a question on the floor. We'll encourage you now to take the mic.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Esroy Butte, a representative of Massa Assist. From something that Dr. Murray was just explaining a while ago, and also Ms. Borgen. In regard to energy drink, just a question, is there any side effect to persons who drink a lot of energy drink? Because to be honest, that's my favorite way. I drink a lot of energy drink because I normally do a lot of walking, and long hours because I normally be up a lot. And also, I normally walk home and to work, so I do a lot of walking. And also, the reason for drinking the drink is just something that I just love. So I just want to know if there's any side effect. Explain, and I will go over to the next part with the ginger and turmeric.
Okay. The concept of using an energy drink is that, like I mentioned before, for instance, I'm a coffee drinker. I've always drunk coffee. It's one of those things you do at medical school because once again, we put our bodies through this very long periods of not sleeping and having all this studying to do, and coffee can be cheap. And therefore, so we drank a lot, and I still do drink coffee. And if I do not have my morning upper, I can feel a bit sluggish. And so therefore, one can say I'm addicted to coffee. But I will have just maybe like 3 cups of coffee a day. If I were to check my pulse during this period, I know my pulse will be higher than expected. It'll be 1/100. And that is why, actually, the brain wants this coffee. It wants to be up and perky. Now, imagine drinking the energy drink, and you're drinking 10 times as much coffee. Your heart is racing very fast, and that is very dangerous for the heart. Quite frankly, you can get a heart attack. Now, and what happens to you, because you become addicted, you will see that you progressively need more, or you need it more frequent. And in doing that, your heart can get into rhythms, as we call them tachycardia, that it's beating so fast that it's inefficiently pumping blood. And you can faint, like I say, you can get a stroke, you can get heart problems, and that is just from the caffeine. I know persons here who are significant drinkers of energy drinks, and when they come to the office, and I check the blood pressure and I check the pulse and I say, how many you had? And they say, what? I say, how many you had? And they say, how did you know? I say, because your pulse is 120 beats a minute. And you're just resting here and you're calm. That is very dangerous for you. I mean, quite frankly speaking, I will give you a free bit of consultation here. I don't know if you'll be charged by the Teachers Association being their session. I will encourage you to try to slowly reduce the frequency and the amount of this which you drink, and because this can be very dangerous for you. I will also encourage you to monitor your pulse. Easily done. Most person has a fancy watch that can do that, or you can see. I just did it a while ago, yeah. Exactly, and you can see what your pulse is doing when you are on these drinks. So try to cut your dependency. The same way I have cut my coffee dependency. I tend to try to only do like 3 cups a day and do smaller cups. Because clearly, I am diagnosed with hypertension and I take medication. And I was always, before heading to medical school, I was an athlete. I was swimming, doing triathlons. I was fit like a fiddle. And of course, started medical school, drank a lot of coffee, less exercising, and maybe this is a hallmark of why I'm hypertensive now. And all this coffee, less exercise than before. So I will encourage you to try to cut down on your free. I mean, your local shop or bartender may not be too happy that you're going to buy less, but let's keep you here longer, okay?
And next, let me state it early. I'm not diabetic. And also purging. I use a lot of stuff that purges the system. Like I drink a lot of water also. The garlic, turmeric, and ginger. I normally grated it, boil it, and store it in a bottle and put it in the refrigerator, so I drink a lot of that. Anything that can purge the system, I always want to have it. So if you walk in everyone and they say, okay, this herb is good for cleansing, whatever, etc., and I can afford it at the moment, I will buy it. Is there any side effect for using too much? I will eat the aloes in its skin. I don't peel it. I just eat it like, just bite and chew. Anything to do with purges the system, I always want to have it. So is there any side effect to it?
Okay, now, everybody is different, right? And so you have an understanding of your system. And you, particularly, you would know, okay, I keep this drink in my fridge, whether I drink 2 ounces 3 times a week or whether I drink it twice a day, you would know that also. And you would feel and see the effects that it would have on your system. But you may try it on somebody else and it may not do the same thing, or you may tell somebody else to do it. Because you say, you grate it and you put it in the refrigerator. Do you boil it?
Sure.
Okay. But how much of each do you use? Do you measure it? Do you have a measured amount? Those are the kinds of things that you need to get into when you want to sell a product, basically. And so I would not encourage people to just go and buy something down the road that somebody put in a bottle, because you do not know when it was prepared, how it was prepared, and you don't know the quantity. So you always have to be mindful of that. And so, again, there are lots of things that people are finding now on YouTube. There are a lot of YouTube videos with people teaching others to make a lot of these different things. But you have to check to see the source and to find out if these are reputable people who are actually doing these things. Because you can't just go and just say, okay, I've seen it on YouTube and this thing looked good and I've tried it and I feel this way and I feel that way. People will tell you, oh, when I use it, I think I lose about 3 pounds. Because a lot of times people are just looking for a quick fix. Rather than you monitor what you eat, people will go, and when they know that they have eaten so much or they have consumed excessive amounts of something, they figure, well, let me get a purge because I had so much of this and so much of that. So I'm getting a purge, whether it be on the weekend, whether it's once a month or whatever. And so those are the things that you need to be mindful of when you are planning on taking these things. We grew up at a time when our parents would have done things like, okay, when school was on vacation, they would tell you they're giving you a warming. Mm-hmm. Or they would give you something like senna. Senna is now put into a tea bag. It is out there in a tea bag format. But it is done based on scientific research. So the amount that you're going to get in that is going to have a certain impact. But our parents, when they did it, they just bought the raw senna pods from the drugstore or wherever, and they boiled it, and every member of the family got some to drink. And you spend a certain amount of time in the bathroom. But basically, there are things out there now, but a lot of it, you may have good products that have been researched and that you're able to use and would not have a damaging effect on your system. And so that's what you need to do. Seek that you're getting a good product that has been researched, peer-reviewed, etc., so that you don't just take something and then you assume that it's doing something good for you, because you don't know the repercussions. You don't know what is happening with all the different organs in your body. And so you would not know what impact it would have on a specific organ in your system, save and except for what happens through your intestinal tract. Okay?
And finally, I be up all the time. I usually go sleep like say after 4 and wake up. Don't sleep for much. Don't feel tired. I always up, like for instance, if I'm home and I receive a call and somebody say, okay, I want you to come sign me up, I will leave home and go and do it, because I always up, just don't feel tired, just don't feel sleepy. I will go inside and like after 4, But if after 6, after 5, I'm up, So it's just something.
As in AM?
AM. 4 AM after 5 AM.
That is definitely not a good thing.
Every day.
I think that's,
it happened even when I was in, because I spent a little while also in the British Army. Even when I was in the Army, it was just the same, Always up.
I think part of the problem right away is maybe you are drinking, these extra large Red Bull you get in the UK. That's where you start drinking them?
I drink the Monster.
Yes, exactly. And the
okay.
big ones, and that's why.
Yeah, that's why. So you're really on a roll.
Yes, thank you very much. Let's
out
take
your heart.
one more from the online viewers, listeners, Melissa, and then we'll take two from the floor.
Okay, this question is for Dr. Murray and Ms. Bergin. Do you advise intermittent fasting as a method of type 2 diabetes reversal?
Okay, great. I do see patients who present with the concept of intermittent fasting to control diabetes. Well, really, truly. Once again, the concept of type 2 diabetes is that your body is producing insulin. It's either not in a significant amount, or the insulin which is produced is just not functioning well. Therefore, the concept of control will have to be consuming less high energy foods, or spreading out its quantity over a period. And that's why Sister Bergen mentioned eating smaller bits over a wider period. When person do intermittent fasting, in a sense, what they're really doing is just, they're going through periods where they are just not consuming food, so that the energy, which will be there as glucose, is not present, so that there is very little reason for the blood sugar to rise, because you're only getting your sugars via what you eat. So by doing that, they seem to feel, okay, I'm controlling my blood sugar. But the thing is that what happens to that? As soon as you return to the old ways, the system just simply says, hey, it's party time again, it's hammer time, so let's get back. So intermittent fasting might seem to be giving person relative control, but then it seems in the long run, this does not work. And that's why it's most important that you make a lifelong change to your diet and the way how you do things. No short-term fix gonna actually work. So the intermittent fasting might seem to give you a nice little kick, but truly, what works for type 2 diabetes is a complete and long-term change in your lifestyle, and that will give you your reversal of type 2 diabetes if the approach is done earlier.
Anything to add, Ms. Bergen?
Yes, just basically, again, once you have type 2 diabetes, you need to get a proper meal plan. And having a proper meal plan will spread out your meals. So you're not going to wait 4 and 6 hours before you eat. You're going to eat between 2.5 to 3 hours, but you're going to be eating smaller portions. And it is based on the individual's likes and dislikes. It's not what the dietitian think you should eat. It's based on your likes and dislikes. The only thing you would find that individual have to change is if they are not consuming enough fruits and vegetables. And more often, we would be looking at the fruits with a lower sugar content than the ones with a high sugar content. Those are the things you worry about as a diabetic. So rather than you're going to be having a very ripe banana with all the spots on it, you're going to have a banana that has just turned ripe. Okay, because the sugar content is lower in the one that's just ripe. Similarly, you're going to look for some of the fruits, and you're going to have them half ripe rather than ripe. So you're not going to do like Vincentian would do, sit down and have 4 horse mangoes one after the other, or 4 Parlover mangoes one after the other. You can't do that when you become a diabetic. At the end of the day, if Parlover mango is the fruit you're going to have for that day, you can spread them out and have 4 for the entire day. But they must not be ripe and have the juice dripping from them, because you're going to have a blood sugar spike. And every time you have a blood sugar spike and a blood sugar drop, and it's the same thing that happens with the intermittent fasting. Because if your blood sugar drops too low, then you're going to be damaging the cells. And that's where your nerves and then your cells. And that's where the problems become. So a lot of times, when people present with diabetes, they have had diabetes a long time ago. And that's why it is so, it's hardly likely that a lot of people will be able to reverse the type 2 diabetes. Because they're more often than not, they're not willing to make that big turnaround. Okay? And a lot of what has been happening would have been there over time. We have seen people who came, I have worked at the hospital, and I have seen somebody come to the hospital at age 50 to get an amputation. To get an amputation. You know how long it takes for you to get to that stage? So that person would have had diabetes and just ignore it and just live in life normal.
Yes, all right.
And then you hear the big mantra, oh, all they do in this country is cut off people's foot. All over the world it happens. A lot of times people they don't pay attention. And it's a lot of it starts again from the fact that we have too much obesity. Mm-hmm. And the cultural shift is now, my body, my choice. Accept me for who I am. Accept my bigness, you know. I am beautiful as I am. I am comfortable in my skin. And so what we have been doing is encouraging this obesity epidemic and laughing at it and making it seem and making it sexy, if we want to put it that way. So we have big and beautiful shows. It's not a joke. And so this cycle continues. Where do we stop? We're a small nation. This country could never, ever be able to manage this chronic disease epidemic if we continue to eat the way we eat and not do the things that we're supposed to do in terms of changing our lifestyle. We need to exercise, we need to manage our eating habits, and we need to call out people when we need to call them out, point blank.
All right. We have two.
I have one more question before we move. LaBelle Marcel, she wants to know what about black coffee? How does this affect the NCDs?
Well, the concept of black coffee just means coffee without milk. So it's just plain coffee. But clearly there's decaffeinated, there's caffeinated. But I guess I'm assuming this person is looking relative to coffee. The whole concept of coffee is relatively, especially if it's, unless if it's coffee which is instant coffee is another thing, because instant coffee tends to have other elements in there which, depending on the brand, you don't know what extra stuff they have in it. But in terms of coffee per se, caffeine is really the active ingredient which we're looking at there. And drinking a lot of coffee, black coffee, which is non-decaffeinated, it means that the heart rate can be racing for a very long time, and clearly that is not what one requires, not what one wants. That's just equivalent as our friend drinking all that Red Bull and stuff like that. So one should, I think, in reality, should try to consume what I would consider a more manageable and a reasonable amount of coffee, 3 cups a day, depending on what kind of coffee you are drinking.
All right. Mr. Stapleton. Go ahead.
Moderator, let me first of all commend the Teachers Credit Union for having such a healthy discussion. It's really awesome to see that we're having this discussion, and it's a very strategic move. I really want to ask 2 questions though. First one being to Dr. Murray. Dr. Murray, in this modern era, modern medicine, so to speak, is there an alternative way of testing your blood sugar outside of pricking yourself? Because more often than not, I think a lot of persons stay away from testing their sugar on a regular basis because of this pricking, as it were.
There are methods of testing your blood sugar which works with your telephone, with your cell phone. It's a monitor which is classed on the skin, and you can read as often as you want. And the thing with these technologies is cost, and because of cost, they're not practical for regular usage. In terms of the fact that persons don't like needles, and I don't like needles myself. They had the different Lancets which come with most of the test machines. One of the problem is that many persons simply test on the most sensitive area of their body, or on their hands, on their fingers, and one can actually, there are areas on the hand which are less sensitive, which can give you all the blood you need. One of the things also is desensitization. I can recall in the UK when, on the pediatric ward, a child will come in the morning at 8 o'clock. Usually that's the type 1 diabetics. They come in at 8 o'clock in the morning. They are given a ball and a needle to stick the ball and feel comfortable. Then they are allowed to stick a toy. Then they are allowed to see another child administer the insulin. And then they are allowed to give another child their insulin. And by the time 1 o'clock, that child is giving themselves the insulin like nothing. This is a 5 or 6 year old. Desensitization. I know this is modern, and sometimes we think because we're modern, there's a better way. But there is just no way to test blood without getting blood. And that's one of the things. But yes, there is technology which you can put the disc stuck on you, and it interfaces onto the skin, and therefore you're not getting this repeated stick. But the cost and the practicality is really still not in the reach of everyone who actually would like to have this technology.
But before you go on, if you're a diabetic and if you've been a diabetic for a long period of time, you tend to know your body. So therefore, you'll know if your sugar is high or if it's low. So once you do start off, you will need to test, of course. But gradually, you'll know when your lips might turn dry, for example. You definitely know your sugar is extremely high. Or as Dr. Murray stated earlier, one of the symptoms is urination quite often. If you're urinating 2-3 times within 1 hour, every hour you're urinating, you definitely know your sugar is high. Or if your sugar is low, one of the symptoms may be feeling tired for some reason, or you're feeling fainty for some reason. This is extremely low, but you tend to know your body after a period of time, but still, testing, it is still the way to go, the safest way to go. But you do tend to know your body after a period of time.
Okay.
Another question?
Yes, one more question. Any of the panelists can answer this. But how important is the drinking of water in the fight against these non-communicable diseases? And perhaps the quantity. Some people believe that, maybe drinking 1 gallon, 2 gallons, 3 gallons might actually help them to fight these diseases much better. But how important is water generally in fighting these non-communicable diseases?
Dr. Murray, and these guys answer after. But speaking from a diabetic point of view, when I do drink water, it does nothing for me. When I mean does nothing for me, it does not spike my blood sugar, it does not lower my blood sugar, and it's the safest thing for me to do when I drink water. When I do feel not hungry, but when I feel thirsty, water is the safest thing to do. If you train your body every time you feel thirsty to go and drink a soda or drink a fruit juice, you're damaging yourself because, of course, you're spiking your blood sugar often. And you may not have taken your metformin or your tablets at all, or your insulin in my case. So drinking water is the safest way to go.
There are two things to look for with water. This statement might sound strange, but water is really highly overrated. Meaning, water, as you go around, everyone has a bottle. This is the fad, and they drink water. And water, if you have a normal functioning kidneys working great. If you drink a significant amount of water, then the kidney has to regulate that water, so then you will pee more. And therefore, you can be drinking a lot of water, and so that just drinking a lot of water doesn't make it healthy. Your water has to be in the right proportion. So it's not just a matter of drinking more will make you more healthy. There's also a condition which one has to be very wary of, and I see it with a lot of elderly. And that is a condition which is called hyponatremia, or what they have is a situation where you can dilute the blood so much that you actually have a situation where that blood allows water to leak into the brain. Now, and this is especially for individuals who may not have a properly functioning kidney. In universities, every year, in North America, at least 5 university students will die from hyponatremia, where the brain becomes swollen by playing games and where you have to drink water if you lose.
Yeah.
So you can drink so much water over a short period of time that the brain swells and you're a goner in the best hospital in the world. So persons who have poor kidney function must be very wary of the amount of water they consume. People talk about the 8 glasses and the different stuff. And then there's the kind of water you drink. There's spring water or tap water. That is just water. And if your kidney is working fine, and if you're working out like Mr. Constance and you're sweating and stuff, clearly you're losing water and you should replenish that. But if you're just sitting in a bed all day and not, or you're in a nice air-conditioned unit and you're having a nice time, and you keep drinking water, that can be dangerous. And people can get seizures. They can get, if some persons who are on medications called diuretics, which is made so that you can urinate because of heart failure, they can drink too much fluid and they can drown on their own, on all that water which they drank. It happens. So be very wary of just drinking water, and always bear in mind that water that has electrolytes is a bit safer, especially if it's oral rehydration salts or if it's the Gatorade or those stuff for hydration, because they can help you retain. But when it comes to drinking water, don't go drinking this 1, 2, 3 gallons a day and stuff like that. That won't work for you. If you're working out and you're sweating, just water alone won't hydrate you. You need to, because the salt you lose in your skin needs to be replaced. Yes. And that is where the electrolytes come in, and a little coconut water and stuff. But once again, if you're diabetic, coconut water doesn't come as a constant. If it's close to the river or the rain is falling, it's not sweet. If it's dry season or it's up on the hill, it is sweeter. Mm-hmm. No one buys coconut water if it's not sweet. Mm-hmm. So no one sells coconut water that's not sweet. Mm-hmm. So that coconut water which you buy, invariably, it will be sweet. Mm-hmm. And if you're diabetic, you should also be aware of that.
Thank you very much, and great job from the panelists.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a question from Madam CEO.
While we await Mrs. Oh, she's...
I'm so short. Good night to the panelists.
Good night.
I think the question has to do with taking care of the feet. How does a diabetic, or how should they take care of their feet? And my mother's a diabetic, and that is something that we are struggling with. In terms of, but she doesn't want somebody like me to cut her toenails, and so she prefers a nurse to come and do that.
That's right.
So if you can guide me as to how we can do that, that will be helpful. Thank you.
What you can do, there are nurses in the clinics who are trained to do diabetic foot care. So the best thing is to get her to come and to show you what to do, so that if you want to do it, or if you have to do it at a point when the nurse is not available, that you'll be able to do it. But one of the things we usually advocate for persons with diabetics is that at the home level, don't put your diabetics to soak their feet in hot water. Don't put your diabetics to soak their feet in baking soda. Don't put them to soak their feet in Epsom salts and all those kinds of different things. So you get the information that is vital for the foot care of your diabetic relative, and you use that information and be guided by what the nurse, because the nurse has that training and that background. And more often than not, they usually tell you to cut the toenails straight across. Because a lot of times what happens, you don't want them to get what is referred to as ingrowing nails. So they usually tell them to cut it straight across. And of course, they still have to check with their physicians when they go for their checkups. Make sure that their feet are checked so that you can see if there's any blisters, any bruises, anything like that. Because feet are one of the areas that you find diabetics usually end up with problems early.
Okay. Now the question has to do with the sugar boils. How do they come about and how can a diabetic deal with those?
That's Dr. Murray.
Yeah, sugar balls. This reminds me as a boy, when the mango season used to be around Easter, because everything has changed now. Mm-hmm. Mangoes will come into season around Easter, and of course, and therefore, that's when you had mangoes. Mm-hmm. And clearly, we were consuming so much mangoes that our blood sugar levels will be high, and therefore, clearly, it means, therefore, you got boils easily. Sugar boils, they were called mango boils. Now, it's a bit reversed now, in that now, people who tend to have these boils are diabetics. And whenever you start seeing boils, you can always be certain that the blood sugar is not controlled. Because it's the same reason why, as kids, we got them from eating all those mangoes. Because so long as the blood sugar level is high, bacteria in the body live on sugar. They like that. It's a carnival. It's a party in there. Mm-hmm. And therefore, the sugar content in the body is high, and therefore, any breakage in the skin, because bacteria is always present, they are now able to establish themselves. And once again, if the sugar level is high, then those micro vessels, those small vessels, they are killed off. And therefore, the soldiers, the white blood cells, even the antibiotics find it very difficult to get into the point where the infection is. So sugar boils, and it may be a great way to describe it, and it demonstrates that the blood sugar is most likely not under control. And believe me, those can be horrible. I mean, I have seen some where you have to make an incision and a drainage, and you need to get a bucket to catch what's coming out. And it happens fast. That's another thing. This thing happens fast. When the patient says, Doc, it was not there over the weekend, and you look at it now, experience tells us the person is telling the truth. But for someone looking at it, they'll be like, there's no way this could happen over 4 days. And that is the beauty of diabetes. Also, when you mention, like Sister Bergen rightfully mentioned, relative to persons telling you how to treat your foot, remember, diabetics do not feel as good as normal. And therefore, especially when his blood sugar has been out of control. And I've known of a situation where a person giving some advice to someone, the way to treat your foot because of the pain in the leg, which is peripheral neuropathy. That is, the nerves in the distal area of the leg, they are no longer functioning properly. So the brain tells you it's pain. So the person says, you put your leg in some warm water and it works good. Mm-hmm. So the person obviously placed their foot in this basin of water while they're looking at television, and they're like, hey, it's not warm enough because I'm not feeling it. But because they cannot feel properly, when they looked down at the leg, they had burnt, literally. The legs were burnt red, but they could not feel it. That was a double amputation. Mm-hmm. So it's very important that when it comes to these advice you get from your friend and your neighbor, sometimes they mean well, but diabetes is not something to really play around with. Always get professional advice. Nothing is wrong in doing your YouTube but speak to the nurse, speak to a physician, speak to another diabetic, because sometimes when you're desperate, you will do anything, but it's worse in your desperation, you cause yourself more harm than actually ending up getting good help.
Once you're placed on insulin, can that be reversed? Or it's a lifelong situation?
No, insulin is given, for instance, as Mr. Constance here mentioned, he's a type 1 diabetic, or he's an insulin-dependent diabetic, so he will need insulin all his life, really, because his pancreas is not producing. So let's assume that a person is a classical insulin dependent. That person will always need insulin. But type 2 diabetics, as I mentioned, either the insulin is not working efficiently or the body is not producing enough. So you may be placed on insulin because you need to get an optimum control, but your diet, because you saw your nutritionist, your exercise, because you saw your personal trainer, you are now taking in less sugars and you are burning more calories, and therefore you might not necessarily need insulin because the insulin your body now produces is adequate, and therefore your insulin can be reduced and eventually it can be off. But clearly this all has to do relative to how your own management and cares. Many people at times, I'm sorry to say, sometimes a physician does a foolish thing, that they allow themselves to be conned by a patient to take them off the insulin because they're scared of the needles. But in earnest and to be honest, a patient who requires insulin requires it. And therefore, that individual, if one is to revert to use some other form of care, you have to be certain that the person's control is adequate. You can't just change things overnight. And that is a part of the problem which we see at times. Someone is nice up with a doctor and they say, "Doc, I don't like this insulin." The doctor says, "Oh, okay, you can come off the insulin, take these tabs." It can't work like that. It's not a brother and sister situation. It's a matter of physician and patient. And we have to explain to the patient why they are on insulin and why they're on this dosage. And they now have to prove, because clearly, if you don't need insulin, it means therefore you will see readings which are in retrospect relative to what you're taking. So we all would like to hear, okay, I'm going to get off insulin because some person don't like needles, but in reality, insulin gives you a better area of control and maneuverability. Yes. Your doctor can speak to you over the phone and say, take 5 units more, take 5 units less. Mm-hmm. Increase your units in the evening, decrease it in the morning. But you can't do that with tablets. So insulin actually truly gives more flexibility, but clearly you are placed on insulin if you need insulin, and if it is shown that you do not, your physician will then lower your dose or eventually, if necessary, can take you off it.
Thank you. One more question, though. It has to do with the medication. I know some people react differently to medication, like the metformin. In my mother's case, I think she gets constipated when she was on that. How can you explain that to us?
Yes, metformin is one of those tablets that tends to affect the GI system. Some persons, if you put them on metformin, they get diarrhea, or they get abdominal pain, they get bloatiness, and some people become constipated. And because no medication comes without some form of effect, and some persons react differently, but also what we see as physicians and nurses and nutritionists is that not because 4 different tablets have the same active ingredient does it mean is an active ingredient that's causing the problem. Because when you have a medication, it is encompassed in a cake. So the active ingredient is there, but every company have their own additives they put in it. And sometimes it is an additive in that brand. So what we do is not just to blame metformin usually. What we'll do is say, hey, let's use a different brand and let us see what happens. And sometimes you will see the problem is not necessarily the metformin active ingredient, but rather it is what is put in that cake. And that must be first looked at, because sometimes it's easy to simply say, don't take this. But if it's a life-saving drug, why do we want to do that? So we must first see if it's the brand. Try different brands and see if it works. And clearly, there's some person absolutely have problems with metformin, and therefore it is not a drug to use. But there are other drugs which can work like metformin. They are injectables which are used, which can work like metformin, which is used, but once again, it's cost. The one which is most common is rather expensive. I even got some donated to me from a patient who was on them, and I contacted a physician who I know in the public system, and I said, I have these here. I have enough for 5 persons to get a 6-month supply. They can have it, because 1 pen will last for a month, but it's 500 EC dollars. So clearly, no one will be on it for long. So I said, I have these. I will give it to anyone whom, and no one has come for it yet, because no one classically is on this medication in St. Vincent. So the concept is that what I'll say to you for your mother is to try a different brand of metformin, and just be certain it may not be the actual active ingredient that's causing the problem.
Thank you. We have two final questions, quick questions from online.
Yes. Alva Huggins wants to know, is Glucerna harmful for diabetics?
Glucerna is a drink that is specific for diabetics, but different people would react differently to it, and so sometimes you find somebody would use it and they will get diarrhea from using it. But it is specifically tailored for diabetics. If you have a diabetic and you want to introduce them to it, you discuss it with your physician and your dietitian and let them go through the panel and let you see what's in it so that you can check the person to see, okay, let them take whether they're going to take a half at a time and use it. They are used specifically in times when a diabetic may not be able to eat, because it comes like a full meal. So sometimes they use it as a meal to maybe on a sick day, or something, the person didn't feel like eating or something like that. And so, but they're tested and tried.
Thank you. Enzo Designs would like to know, how would you classify a constant low blood pressure, Dr. Murray?
A constant low blood pressure is called hypotension, and that is classically a blood pressure that will be around 90/60. Now, it's important to understand people are different. Ladies in particular tend to have lower blood pressure than men, and therefore ladies' blood pressures classically before menopause always tend to be lower than men. But a person can be walking around perfectly fine with a blood pressure of 100/60, and they're great. And the next person with a blood pressure of 110/60 feels quite dizzy. Persons who experience hypotension are classically persons either whom are on medications which are not regulated, or to a certain extent, some persons who are anemic can experience hypotension. They get dizzy also. If they come from a position from lying to standing or sitting to standing, they can also faint. So hypotension is, and sometimes all the person might need to do, providing there is no disease processes on board, that they should consume fluids that has electrolytes, like Gatorade, like coconut water. Now, this is a situation where a little salt can help. What it does, salt helps the body retain fluids as opposed to you urinating, and therefore the blood pressure will go up a little bit. But first, the person should be reviewed by an expert, a doctor, a nurse, to make sure why is this happening, and if it's a real concern. It may just be tested and be seen to be low, and the person may have no physical symptoms, and therefore it requires no true intervention.
Claudette Williams is asking, can someone experience elevated blood sugar due to dehydration or drinking less water?
Indeed, yes. And this happens a lot. It's easier to understand it with the diabetic. Water is a constituent of blood. And when we test blood sugar, what we are testing is the concentration of sugar in that soup, in that broth, in that serum. So if a person is dehydrated, the blood sugar, which is a concentration of the sugar in that blood, will seem to be high. And this happens a lot at times when persons at times have to come to hospital. A person might be ill and their blood sugar can all be 400-500. Now they're taken to the hospital, and I can remember working in the emergency unit. We always remember, first thing we should do is to hydrate the patient before we give insulin. Because you'll recognize, as soon as you hydrate the patient into a normal hydration, the blood sugar will drop down to maybe 250, which means if we decided to give a big dose of insulin initially and then hydrate, that person will go hypo. But in a normal working system, the body is able to counteract this lovely. And that's why being in good general health is important. To the point that even when we are dehydrated, the body has a way of shutting off the flow of blood to the peripheries and conserving blood flow to the major organs, and ensures that that sugar gradient does not really affect us. But yes, dehydration can make your blood sugar be high, especially if you're diabetic, and it can also have a non-diabetic sugar reading to be higher than normal. And that's why there are specific ways in which we consider a person to be diabetic by doing very important tests. Fasting blood sugar, the hemoglobin A1C, which is called the glycosylated hemoglobin. These must be done because we can't just have a person come in and just increase. I can remember when I worked in the public service, when mango season was in, many times a person's insulin or blood sugar medication was increased because they came with high readings. But you see, that's why being a physician, you have to understand the local settings. Yeah. And I'll ask the patient, I see a reading there. How much pour over you had last night? Doc, but I said, no, tell me. Them pour over in the yard falling, I can't let them waste. I had 4. So I know right away I should not increase that person's insulin or medication, but to tell them that, hey, you are consuming too much mangoes. If I had increased their medication, they will come back when the mango season is out with hypo. The concept is that the concentration of the sugar in the blood has a lot to do with the fluid you're taking. So if you're dehydrated, you will get a spike in your blood sugar.
Thank you very much. That's it for questions. What we're going to do, give a minute each just to wrap up the presentation. Dr. Murray, you'll speak to the prevention of NCDs. Mr. Constance, the importance. Oh, there's another question.
Someone was asking, my cousin actually, who lives in England, she was asking if, as a diabetic, if you can't take soak your body in Epsom salts.
Tell her consult with her physician and find out first. Yeah, because she would know what state her body is in. Yeah.
All right, so Dr. Murray, a minute, speak to prevention, just remind persons of prevention. Mr. Constance, the importance of exercise, and Ms. Bergen, speak to healthy eating. That's a minute each as we wrap up the discussion.
Okay, so as a physician, I encourage individuals to have a relationship with your physician or your clinic. Don't just think that your clinic is a place that, as they say, hey, when they're dead, they don't have to bust me open so that somebody can write a death certificate. No. You need to have a good relationship with your physician or your clinic so that you can have an assessment of your blood pressure, your blood sugar, and non-communicable diseases like cancers. Your pap smears, checking your prostate, all these things. Now, it's always expensive when someone gets diagnosed with an illness and for its management, and it's a life changer. But we can do a lot in preventing many of these conditions. You see, life is very simple. We are, as a physician and a man of science, we are born, we will live, and we will die. And in life, it's not always how long you live, but it's the quality of life which you have. And the quality of life which you have has a lot to do in the way how you take care of that life. And one part of taking care of that life is ensuring that for all disease processes, of which non-communicable diseases are, they can be prevented so that your quality of life could be good. And that even if you have longevity of life, that it is one that is of a certain quality which you can enjoy until your last days. And the best way of doing this is to have a good relationship relative to your diet, which Mrs. Bergen will come in, exercise, which Mr. Constance comes in, visit to your physician, someone like myself comes in, so that you can actually enjoy these. And not because you're diagnosed with a chronic non-communicable diseases does it mean your life has to be bad. And therefore, it's important that you have early diagnosis for ones which you may have no control over, because quality of life always trumps longevity of life. And that is my advice.
Mr. Constance, the importance of exercise again.
All right, with the importance of exercise, you just got to remember, we need to be able to balance of our exercise with our diet and our medication. Without a diet, your sugar is going to spike high. Without exercise, your sugar definitely will spike high. Without proper medications, your sugar definitely will spike high. But remember, with exercise, it helps lower your blood sugar. It even helps lower your blood pressure as well. So exercise is one of the most, it is one of the most important things diabetics should do. If you're scared to go to the gym, that's no problem. You can easily go on the road. You can start walking. Eventually, you'll develop a walking and turn into run. If you don't like to be on the road, you can head to the beach. Swimming is one of the best exercises you can find. It works your total body. Or I've noticed cycling has coming very popular right now. Cycling. Now, play a sport. All these are forms of exercise, and all these are forms of which we can start lowering our blood sugar. So it's not only just the gym, it's not only just running, but we have gardening is very important. You do so much work in the garden. Have you ever tried to work planting or digging the soil? You sweat so much. Physical activity, it is quite important. It will help you lower your blood sugar. It will help you lower your blood pressure as well. So do think about it. Let it be a number one on your list as well.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bergen, healthy eating.
Okay. Again, we just want to encourage people. We know in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, from since preschool, we are taught about the 6 food groups. But very often, we skip some of the food groups. We don't use enough legumes, and we don't use enough fruits and vegetables. Try as much as possible to incorporate them in your diet. They are high in fiber. They help to lower cholesterol. They help us to manage our fats. And also, they help us to manage our blood sugar levels. The higher the fiber content in our diet, the better it is for our glucose management. And so we want to encourage our people. We want you to, just like Dr. Murray said, to live a good quality life. Eat right, and you're going to have a good quality life. What you put into your body is what is going to shine out on the outside. And the quantity you put in is going to determine how long you live, how good you live, and what it is going to encourage in your body. Mm-hmm. Very often we say, oh, we can't afford. Vegetables are too expensive. That is usually one of the number one things. Just like Mr. Constance said, start doing a backyard garden. You start by planting 1 vegetable, 2 vegetables, then you end up with 3, 4, 5, 6 vegetables. That way you're going to have food that you can put from right in your backyard into your plate. And once you begin with 1 and you incorporate that as a part of your family routine with all the other members of your family, you're going to have a healthier lifestyle. And I just want to thank everyone for the questions tonight, and thank you all for having me here so that I can impart some of the knowledge that I have. we in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there's going to be a movement that starts on the weekend. Let's get moving. Let's get moving. Be active in your safe space. You in your home, you put on some music and you move up and down in your house. You can start at breakfast time in the morning. Every 5 minutes that you move your body is going to count at the end of the day. So sometimes, just like Mr. Constant said, you don't have to be in a gym. Get moving. And we all going to have a better St. Vincent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, panelists. Thank you so much. At this time, we'll invite to the microphone Master Assist Sinclair Stapleton to do a short presentation.
Thank you very much, moderator, panelist, CEO Jasmine Huggins. Once again, good afternoon. You know, as I sat there listening to the various panelists speak, I said to myself clearly, food is a friend, but it is also an enemy. Another thought that came quite vividly to my mind is that every time you eat, you are either feeding a disease or you're fighting it. So we want to commend our panelists for the wisdom that they have given to us here this evening with respect to medication, exercise, and diet. I stand here today wearing my MASA Air Ambulance Association hat. And for those of you who are not aware of who MASA is, MASA stands basically for Medical Air Services Association. And in layman language, we are an air ambulance company, or we are like a hospital in the sky. So for our diabetics and our hypertension or hypertensive persons listening here this evening, I'm here to encourage you from the desk of MASA to become a member of this life-saving Air Ambulance Association. It is wisdom, because wise people join MASA. And why do I say that? In the last 3 or 4 months, we have flown out quite a bit of individuals out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines because of heart attacks and stroke. And these two diseases in particular are connected once more to the subject matters that we were discussing here this evening. The last person we flew out of here in particular, we had to pay for a flight for her, she had to do a triple bypass surgery. And the cost of that flight was $49,000. Can you imagine if she had to spend that money out of pocket? The average cost for an air ambulance flight out of pocket from here to Barbados is well in excess of 45,000 EC dollars. Trinidad, it is well in excess of 65,000 EC dollars. And the United States of America, my friends, it is well in excess of 100,000 EC dollars. Don't get scared though. If you are a member of MASA, I say this without any apology, your flight is going to be for free. And you're not going to pay a cent. And so, I say to my listeners, have no fear. MASA is here. And we are going to back you. We love our citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We love our diabetics and hypertensive patients. So if life gets to the worst, where you are sick to the extent that you have to be flown out, Dr. Murray, science make the recommendation, we cannot do anything here, you need to go and put the stents in your hearts or what have you, and you are a member of MASA, we are going to pay for your flight free. Because MASA believes in the principle of pooling our resources together to help one another. Scriptural. Galatians 6:1-2 says, bear ye one another's burden, and so fulfill the love of Christ. We are a company of love. And once you have life, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your health condition or situation. Once you are a member of MASA and you have life, we are going to pay for the cost of the flight for you, that exorbitant cost. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the Teachers Credit Union. It is only a company of wisdom and an education committee of wisdom who could have the foresight to organize a session like this evening, so that not only you can educate our people, but you can teach them and point them into the right direction to get the necessary help that they need. It is better, in conclusion, it is better to be safe than to be sorry. Join MASA Air Ambulance Association today. We love you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sinclair Stapleton. MASA assist short presentation. At this time, we turn over to Sister Melissa York-Nichols, the marketing manager of the Teachers Cooperative Credit Union.
Good night once again. I would try not to be to be as I'm at a loss for words. His presentation was so overwhelming. But it would be remiss of me to end tonight's session without speaking about the CutMed health insurance that we offer here at the Teachers Cooperative Credit Union for our members. Our rates are quite competitive and low, I would say. We offer vision. We offer vision coverage, dental coverage, and health coverage. And our health coverage goes way beyond just your doctor's visits and your prescription. It covers physiotherapy, it covers chiropractor care, it covers, we are in the month of Mental Health Awareness Month, it covers psychiatric care if need be. So I encourage you, if you're a member of the Teachers Credit Union, to come in, and you're not yet enrolled in the CutMed Health Insurance Plan, to come in and have a chat with one of our customer service representatives and get signed up today. You can, it's not only just for you, the member, but you can also insure your dependents as well. And even if, you are a bit older and wiser in life, you can still be eligible to receive benefits under this health insurance plan. So I encourage you, visit one of our branches. We are throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in Beckway, Canawan, Union Island, Barley, and right here in Kingstown. Come in and let's get you enrolled in our health insurance plan today. So when you go to visit Dr. Murray, you won't have to worry about paying that fee. But his fee is not high at all, if I must say. As I said before, Dr. Murray is a doctor of the people. At this time, we'll invite Chairperson of the Education Committee, Sister Celine Barber, to bring a vote of thanks as we bring this evening's panel discussion to a close.
Good night, everyone. At the end of receiving such important information for free, I am honored to say thank you to all who contributed to this event. For the valuable information given to us, thank you, Dr. Murray, Ms. Bergin, and Mr. Kian Constance. Brother Johnny P. Straker, thank you for moderating the session so well again. Brother Cecil Charles, Vice President of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited Board of Directors, for his welcoming remarks. We thank him. ITFX Digital and NLS Sounds for tech support, and Mr. Simon Hines for capturing the memories of today, as he always does. Massa Air Ambulance Service for bringing your products and services to our attention through your service, through your presentation, your well done presentation, convincing presentation. Thank you. Board of Directors, management and staff of the Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited, thank you for your support of this event. To the audience here and online, thank you for your participation. And overall, thank you to everyone for making this our 4th annual health symposium a success. I do hope that the information that was received here this evening will make us more aware of non-communicable diseases and cause us to get up and fight against it. Remember that being active in the fight against non-communicable diseases signifies a healthy you. Thank you once again. At this time, I will invite Mrs. Huggins Daly, our CEO, to do a presentation. What is that? We'll do it one at a time. First, we will take Dr. Murray because he's at the end. Dr. Murray? Thank you once again, Dr. Murray. And we take Mr. Constance. Thank you once again, Mr. Constance. And we leave the best for last, the rose among the thorns. Thank you, Ms. Bergin, for your presentation this afternoon. This evening, sorry. Okay. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Ms. Celine Baba, Chair of the Education and Marketing Committee. At this point, we bring our 4th annual symposium of the Teachers Cooperative Credit Union to a close. Thank you very much, those persons online. Thank you very much, those present. And have a safe journey home for those of us who are here. Thank you very much.
Then let the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union Limited put you in the driver's seat with our Drive Your Dream Vehicle loan. With up to 5 years to repay and a low monthly interest rate of 0.5% on the reducing balance, it's a no-brainer. Call us at 457-2947 or visit tccusvg.com for more information or to schedule your loan appointment. SVGTCCU Limited, terms and conditions apply.